Hi, I'm Zach Patton, and I'm the chief editor for the content studio at eRepublic. For this virtual Q&A, I spoke with Nick Michaelides and Mark Moffett from Cisco. Nick is senior vice president and leads the company's U.S. public sector organization. He has more than 30 years of experience helping governments use technology to improve operations and serve their communities. Mark is the Senior Director of System Engineering and Architectures and CTO for the U.S. public sector for Cisco. Nick and Mark shared some of their insights about the dramatic changes happening in the way that state and local agencies work and serve their communities, all driven by the pandemic. And they talked about what those changes mean for today's government leaders.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Mark, I'm going to start with you. A lot of experts are saying that the pandemic has really dramatically accelerated a lot of the ongoing workplace and technology trends that we've seen in government. How have you seen that kind of playing out?
Great question, Zach. Thanks, first of all, for the invitation and for allowing us an opportunity to meet with you today. So first, we're almost, believe it or not, 8 months past the event, which is hard to get your head around. But the thing I'm very proud of with our government customers is, first of all, for those who said we couldn't move fast, we got to prove everybody different. And nothing makes you move like what happened back in March. The thing that really happened and has allowed us to at least, what I would say, get a good spot quickly was what government's been doing for quite some time, and that is moving to some sort of a cloud delivered service. And when you think about the context I like to put this in that's starting to shape up is if the cloud's the new data center and the SaaS of the applications and the internet's the network that gives us that connectivity, and the edge is where the person or the thing is. Now suddenly this effort to digitize really accelerated very rapidly. So it's more than work from home. We've seen the need to legislate virtually. We've seen the need to educate virtually. We've seen the need to deliver all sorts of citizen services virtually. But when you think about how long this cloud thing has developed, I know we seem to think it just happened over the last couple of years, but Salesforce was founded back in 1999. It's 21 years to figure out how to start to get our applications into the cloud, and then deliver services with the AWS and EC2 back in 2006. What nobody was prepared for, though, was how do you roll out 19 million branches overnight? Had you asked any government leader to do that, it would have been a 5, 6, 7, even 10-year project. But we did it. And so when you think about what the workforce was able to do with collaboration tools like we're using today with WebEx, connectivity capabilities like we deliver with software-defined wide area networking, security products that now give us endpoint, DNS security, multi-factor authentication, the capability to zero trust, that is being delivered via the cloud. And then from a data center perspective, those applications kind of living where they need to for accessibility, security, all those type things. We really were in a pretty good spot, but it was still somewhat chaotic. I think what's happened now is what I'd say post-pandemic is, I think the stats I saw, somewhere around 86% of government leaders have agreed that this is permanent in some form or fashion. So what I've been using is this term elastic, right, to really explain what we're going to see going forward. And it's not the pandemic, but even things like inclement weather days, right? We used to have to worry about in school or government, people can't come to work. Well, guess what? We figured out how to continue to work through situations, whether it's something like the pandemic or a catastrophic event or even weather related. And it allows us to just keep moving. And then something else, I guess, it's kind of popped up is not as many sick days. I can not be feeling well, not have to come to the office and potentially get somebody else sick, but I can still work. So I think we've all learned that we can be a lot more productive, deliver a lot more continuous service, if you will, to the citizen, but do it in a much more efficient way. But it's had its struggles and it will continue to do so.
So when you think about that 86% number that you mentioned, which is just so impressive and so interesting, but when you think about that, how do you see this going forward? How do you see governments kind of carrying this speed, this transformation going forward?
Well, it's, like I share every time I speak about this topic, I hope we don't let a really good opportunity here pass us by and go back to where we were. And so when you think about, again, what I started down the path of is now whatever work happens to be, whether again as whether it's our lawmakers trying to continue to create policy and law for us, where that's typically been a hand-to-hand, face-to-face activity, and been really localized, so that now we've found that we can actually deliver capabilities like we have with WebEx for legislators to actually give legislators the specific feature functionality they need to effectively set policy, make law, but do it without everybody being in the same place. Well, a great side benefit of that is they get to stay in their own communities more and spend time with citizens. That really matters. So I think, Zach, when you think of technology, it really is doing what at least Cisco's always done, is that's connect the unconnected, so to speak. But it's really letting us close some gaps. And I'll give one scenario I mentioned with a couple of CISOs the other day about not letting an opportunity pass us by. You've got this digital divide situation. We're all talking about how do you get adequate bandwidth to everybody so that people can either do their job, schoolwork, those type things. Well, states, cities, we've all kind of worked in silos, technically speaking, but there's no reason to really do that. When you think about the opportunity here to truly digitize, do a lot of things virtually and leverage those cloud delivered services, now we have the ability to say take a big open parking lot space, and whether it's a pop-up medical facility or a hot spot for students to drive up to who may be out in remote or rural parts of the state to get access. Those type of things become a real possibility. So partnerships between the states, the cities, the schools, this really gives us an opportunity to use technology in a really good way to solve a lot of really key problems for entire citizen base, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. I love those examples. Nick, I want to bring you in here and really focus in on this topic of the workforce management piece, right? What do you think that the governments have learned over the last 8 months about ensuring the well-being of their employees? And then how do they kind of carry that forward in terms of workforce management in the months and years ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. And hey, look, first off, I do see them reimagining the workforce to include things like people, technology, and expanding the view of where and how work gets done. I think organizations and governments had to figure out, as Mark said overnight, how do they effectively and securely transition their workforces from being in the office, say, 80, 90% of the time to now full remote. I think agencies are looking for ways of recognizing the value of their people and devoting considerable amounts of time and resources to creating environments that will showcase their unique talents. I think with the transition in many cases to this full remote workforce, organizations and leaders are dealing with the increased need for flexibility. Everyone now has shifting schedules, in some cases dealing with their dogs, taking care of their kids, and in some situations having to help educate them, and unfortunately in some cases even having to take care of their aging elders. And this is kind of becoming the new norm. While we may be physically isolated, we still need to be connected, and video has become, like we're doing here today, right? That's become our new way of work life. It's now the primary way in which we communicate with each other, both professionally and even personally. Government, businesses, companies alike understand and appreciate the role that technology plays in connecting our people and teams in this kind of new norm. They also understand that working from their home offices or wherever their new office is also creates some challenges, and leveraging things like noise canceling audio and things like virtual video backgrounds, giving you kind of the look of an office or a particular background that is not your living room, say, or your bedroom or your porch, is really helping our employees to connect and communicate more effectively and surely more professionally. As an example, Cisco recently acquired a company called Battle Labs, which is all around noise reducing the external noises that we all experience, and making sure that our technology is just not delivering the best video quality to succeed in this kind of new norm, but also ensuring that the audio experience is best in class. We also acquired a company that does real-time meeting transcripts and a platform that can help with language barriers. It has interpretation capabilities for non-English speaking languages. Things like these will give our employees and our customers the confidence they need during those calls, that we can eliminate those embarrassing moments when the landscaper shows up and starts mowing while you're in the middle of a video conference, right? Or children or dogs barking in the background, right? We're also ensuring that a lot of our employees have the latest technology so that their home office can look professional and fresh. We talked a bit about the technology piece, but there's also this human aspect that I want to touch on that leaders in our government are concerned with. It's that need to deal with things such as, how do you hire and attract new talent? The younger generations are looking for better work-life balance. There's no more like going out to the office, hanging out at the water cooler, right? So the way you connect now is through things like virtual happy hours and video, like again we're doing here today. The training and the tools required to do the job, especially for like non-technical people, is critical in becoming part of the new norm. And I think what people even wear has changed. So the hours in many cases that our employees are working is exponentially more, and that is causing mental stress and challenges for all of us. So engaging employees, ensuring their well-being is and has to be a top priority for government agencies and organizations alike around the globe. We all need to figure out how to avoid burnout syndrome. How do we stay connected? We got to ensure the mental health of our teams and our employees and make sure that it's as good as it can be. And we need to make sure that we are attracting the right new talent. And then when we do attract them, that we develop them and ultimately keep them in their roles and figure out how to develop leadership skills and things like that. All of these things are going to be critical for us moving forward. We all need to figure out how to thrive, as Mark said, in this new cloud-first world.
Hey, Nick, and I love those backgrounds. So to take the advantage of a couple of things, I had this ugly gray wall behind me, but as you can now see, I've got this ultra cool engineering logo up with our guiding principles. So the other thing you do is kind of blend some things. It makes it fun. It lets you get out messaging. But Zach, it also does things like, I don't know if you guys can hear this annoying bag crinkling. Can you hear that noise?
No.
It's absolute magic. And so being able to have cymbals in the background, kids practicing their drum sets, rattling chips, no more problems. So those are the cool things that started to emerge too, that a situation that has been problematic has now been solved so that you're able to, work effectively from home. Not everybody's got a great office and it's quiet, all those type things. So very cool.
Amazing. When Nick was talking about that, I was going to say, I'm sure everybody has a laundry list of examples of background noise they'd like to have cut out by this point.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to ask both of you this question, and Nick, I'll start with you on this one. But when you think about the citizen service delivery part of this, what changes do you expect to see over the next decade from governments in terms of how they're providing services to citizens?
Yeah, and look, I'll cover at a high level. I'm sure Marcus will go a lot more into detail here, but we really, really do need to work with our governments across the globe to kind of break down the walls, the buildings, and the silos that kind of divide government. As an example, and this is a recent example for me, I just paid my personal property tax. Unfortunately, my driver's license expired due to COVID. I needed to access an online GIS, that's graphical information system, that would allow me to view some land that's nearby my property. And ultimately, I had to review my state taxes. And if you think about this, that's all part of the state of Virginia. but they're all separate portals. They're all siloed. So when I'm, in one state portal, and I'm trying to do the things, like pay my personal property tax, why can't it pop up something that says, by the way, Nick, your license has expired and let me link you over to DMV? Those are the things that I think we're going to start to see in the next decade as we kind of bring all this together. Agencies and departments need to be more agile. They need to create kind of common platforms for many of our state and local agencies. The government is and will be focused on services that rival private industry so that the user citizen can have kind of that equal to experience like they do commercially. It's going to kind of be, the new digital citizen is going to be more around identity and privacy, right? Single sign-ons. How do we make sure we have enhanced security, streamlined, it's digitized, right? And being able to provide services in a much, much more efficient manner. But Mark, is there anything else maybe you'd want to add or double click on for that one?
No, Nick, I love that example because it goes in so many directions. Again, you think about what you just said, it starts to drive and look, we're not in the application business per se, but we certainly help customers reimagine how they do things with applications. And to Nick's point, when you start to think about, and I know, Zach, you have a question just a little bit more about the technology, but I'll just use this to say we're delivering and leveraging within each of the agencies remarkably because we have great partnerships with many of our states, many of our city governments, and our local governments, I should say. And the thing is each one of the agencies is using the same Cisco technology, but based on the way government works, to Nick's point, it's just the way we've been built. Oftentimes it is in silos, but effectively you're delivering the same service. The beauty of technology today, especially with what we're able to deliver with I would say cloud-oriented type capabilities, is to Nick's point, identity is a big one, right? Enabling cloud-based security. A lot of people are talking about it in terms of secure access service edge or SASE, but a common set of security capabilities, right, that you're derived from cloud delivered service. But if you bring all that together, that whole idea, I love it, Nick's brought it up before, is this digital citizen. Think about if you're a Wells Fargo customer, which I am, you log onto your portal. If I had to go to 40 different banks to get something done, what do? You leave, you get frustrated. And unfortunately, we can't leave our government, so to speak. And so one of the things we're working with government on is this very idea of how do you start to build more interagency partnerships and let technology kind of disappear, if you will, but start to enable some of those applications more around what the citizen wants versus the way we have to operate. And the last thing I'll say on that one, Zach, I think the most profound thing outside of a situation where it's a truly environment, we've seen bureaucracy take a back seat over the last several months, right? We've seen policy lax. We've seen bureaucratic policy and things kind of be moved out of the way so that we could do some of these things. So I think it's just a real good opportunity as government and really as IT leaders to start to go influence the possible or what's possible and start to look toward the future, to Nick's point.
Totally. We've seen the kind of end of this, excuse of, well, this is how we've always done things before, right? And it's really paving the way for a lot of really cool innovations. But, going back to what you were just saying, for the citizen, you want the technology to disappear, but obviously the technology is a really important piece on the back end. So can you talk, Mark, a little bit more about how you see government use of technology shifting over the next 5 to 10 years?
So let me put it in the context, Zach, of I'll make this around 3 pillars. So when you think about the user, us, and what we're doing right now, we had a great experience joining this WebEx. There's what users want, which is to get any application that lives anywhere from any type device and anything over any type connectivity, right? That's what a user wants. All they want is a fast, dependable connection that's secure and gives them access to anything they want. That could be Instagram from a personal perspective. It could be to the corporate databases, applications, those type of things. But my point is users want that. IT's in the middle, and IT's got to be able to secure this stuff. They've got to be able to manage it effectively. They've got to be able to monitor things. They've got to deal with telecoms. They've got to deal with service providers. They've got a whole plethora of different issues. And then what goes to the cloud and what doesn't. And you have what vendors offer, which is just endless solutions. And so you really have IT kind of stuck in the middle of what users think is that work, and vendors saying, here, we got everything you need. And so the way I've tried to contextualize it is when you break all of that down and you think about the end user, from a Cisco standpoint, we think about first, we've got to connect those users. You've got all of this technology with wide area networking or software defined wide area networking. You've got your data center infrastructure. You've got things living in the cloud. You've got this secure access service edge, security layer. You've got insights. You've got all these things going on. And so as we thought about this to really simplify it for IT, things really boil down into really three prime buckets. And I just put this kind of in the context. If you imagine leaving your driveway, it's a beautiful bluebird day like it is today. You take off driving 80 miles an hour, and you really don't think about what's happening. You can kind of see the cyclists on the roads. You can see the traffic lights in the distance. You can see people pulling up. And that's what we have in our kind of guarded castle and moat environments. But as you now move into this cloud era, it's like leaving your driveway on that foggy morning where you can barely see the end of the driveway, and you drive 10 miles per hour and you can't see anything. So the first thing you lose in this new environment that's scary for all of us is visibility. And so the first thing you start to think about is from an insight standpoint, there's a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning baked into what we bring to the table. So we talk about it in this context of cloud on-ramp. It's how do we get that end user onto an environment, ensure that they've got the right application experience, they've got the right network experience so that this stuff is working seamlessly. And then the second pillar is really around security. You've got to know who's connecting to what they're coming in from, who they are, all those type things. And so in the middle, you've got security. And those are things like zero trust, secure access service edge. So you've got to be able to secure that connectivity. And then realization is, I think, the most important for customers. It's how does a customer rapidly get the value out of all of those technologies that they're bringing to the table? And so we're just trying to take to the degree possible, the complexity off the table and say, look, as you look through this whole spectrum, if you will, from connecting the end user, making sure that they've got the right collaboration platforms we talked about, the right type connectivity, the right type of application access via cloud or local, and you've got the right type of security. That all is brought together under one umbrella, if you will. So that's the way we really tried to contextualize technology, and to the degree possible, make it kind of simple to get your head around.
Yeah, no, that's really great to kind of think about it in those terms. But so Nick, for government leaders who are thinking about those, issues of visibility and security, and back to some of the citizen service delivery stuff that we were talking about, what advice do you have for those government leaders that to think about kind of what they can be doing now to prepare for those changes?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. And look, this isn't recommendations for just government. I think it's for all of us out there, right? Whether you're Cisco, whether you're private, public, it doesn't matter. I think how you lead and thrive needs to change. And I think we all need to embrace this and not be afraid to lead and act differently. I believe that quality leadership is going to be paramount moving forward. We've got to stay close to our people. We've got to stay connected, and we've got to lead with empathy and compassion. Life-work integration, I think, is a reality going forward. We talked a lot about it today, right? And we've got to figure out a way to make work fun. I think technology is the enabler to kind of rapid digitization, but people and processes are and will be the secret sauce. So we've got to get the people and the process thing right. We've got to effectively connect and communicate and over-communicate more than we ever have. And then I think to where Mark was going, we've got to leverage this full stack or this platform thinking to really deliver quality citizen and workforce experiences. As he talked about the bureaucracy, it tends to take a backseat during a crisis. We've all seen it. We've all experienced it when the pandemic hit, that the governments and organizations around the world, they figured out how to cut through the red tape to get things done. I know that we're kind of accustomed to bureaucracy, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think we need to figure out the lessons learned and the mistakes that we've made in the past, and we can't be afraid to move fast. We need to stay with that momentum and then move faster, right? I don't want to go back to the old norm when the pandemic is behind us. So let's get, let's not let things get in the way of what we need to do to modernize, and let's work together to make kind of our citizen and our employee experience the best it possibly can be.
Yeah, and I really just want to underscore one thing that you said, which is about the empathy part of this. And I mean, empathy has been such a watchword for so many of us for over the past year, and I think it's really interesting and really important the way that you're talking about how you build that into bureaucracy and even into the sort of foundational technology. This leading with empathy approach, I think, is so key, right?
Agreed.
Well, listen, Nick Michaelides, Mark Moffett, thank you both so much for joining us for such a good conversation today. And thanks to all of you for joining us as well. And we'll see you again soon for another virtual Q&A.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Margaret. Take care.